11,000 people wake up in this city this morning. By tomorrow, almost none of this is here. This is her house, her morning. Nobody in it knows what today is. His name is Terentius Neo. He bakes. He's good at it, good enough to own this house, good enough to hang his own face on the wall upstairs. 81 loaves go into the oven this morning. He expects to sell them by noon. That's her, beside him. We don't have a name. We have a face, and the stylus she chose to be painted holding, because she could write, and she wanted that known. This is an ordinary house, on an ordinary street, on a morning like the 10,000 mornings before it. Behind the house, there's a mountain. By tomorrow, none of this is here. 11,000 people live here. A port town on the Bay of Naples. Wine money, fish sauce money. The kind of place where a baker's wife learns to read, and the whole street knows your politics because you painted them by your door. They grow grapes on the mountain. There's no word in their language for what it actually is. There have been little tremors for days, but this is earthquake country. A quake half flattened this town 17 years ago, and they rebuilt. Tremors are just weather. You don't run from weather. Just past midday. The mountain opens 20 miles into the sky, into the stratosphere. Across the bay, a 17-year-old boy watches it climb, and years later, writes it down. He says it looks like a pine tree. His name is Pliny, and his letters are the only voice that survives from this day. Then it starts to fall. Not fire, stones, light, floating pumice, raining out of a sky that's going black at noon. And in 1,000 houses at once, the same question, the same afternoon. Do we run, or do we wait for it to stop? Most of the town runs. This matters. Most of Pompeii lives. They grab what they can carry and go while the going's good. But some stay, because the streets are filling with stone, because a child is coughing, because everything you are, the shop, the oven, the faces on the wall, is here, and you don't leave your whole life on the strength of one bad afternoon. So you close the shutters, you light the lamp, you wait for morning. They can't see what's happening to the town outside their door. The pumice keeps falling. 2 feet, 5, nearly 10. Roofs across the town buckle and come down under the weight of it. To live through the night indoors, you have to survive your own house. And above all of it, the column still stands, roaring, holding itself up in the black sky, until, near dawn, it stops holding. When a column that tall can't hold its own weight, it falls, and everything it was holding up comes down the mountain at once. Not lava, a cloud, superheated gas and ash, moving at the speed of a hurricane. 500 degrees. It comes over the walls, through the streets, into the houses. It reaches them in the time it takes to know something is wrong. And then the town is quiet. It stays quiet for 1,700 years. 11,000 people woke up here that morning. Most of them ran and lived. The city itself did not. Here's what the ash did. It buried the town so fast, so completely, that it sealed it like a jar, and it held the shape of everything inside. The wine still in the cups, the dog still on its chain, the bread still in the oven, the faces still on the wall. A single afternoon, pressed flat and kept. The bodies decayed and left hollows, perfect molds of the exact space a person last filled. 1800 years later, an archaeologist works out what the hollows are and starts to pour plaster in, and the town begins to give its people back. We found around 1,000 of them. There are more. A third of the city is still under the ground, unopened, and no one knows the true number of the dead. We probably never will. Not statues. Nobody carved these. This is the shape a living person made in the last second they were alive, kept exactly, because the world ended fast enough to keep it. A cloak pulled over a face, 2 people holding on to each other, a child against a mother, a dog. That's the impossible thing about Pompeii. Not that a town died. Towns die. That an ordinary afternoon survived. We don't know what happened to the baker and his wife. We don't know if they ran or stayed. Their faces survived because a painter put them on a wall, not because of how they died. We might have their portrait and not their bodies, or their bodies and never know it's them. And somehow, that's the point. On that wall, they aren't dying. They're a couple who wanted you to know they could read. Her stylus, forever, against her lip. Let me be honest about the line. The eruption, the column, the surges, the 81 loaves in the oven, the casts, all real, all excavated, and a teenager named Pliny wrote the sky down as it happened. Even the date is argued over. Tradition says August, but the food in the pantries says autumn. The family we sat with, the lamp, the shutters, the held hands, that part is us, imagining our way into the space the real people left behind. The faces are real. The morning is ours. They wanted to be remembered as people who could read. The mountain remembered them as people who were alive. Every episode of Lore opens one door like this, into a single afternoon, and the one life standing inside it. Ash kept Pompeii by burying it, but it's not the only thing the earth has swallowed and held. Some of it we haven't dug up yet. Some of it we found, and still can't explain. Next time, something else the ground refused to let go of. Lore. History. Still being written.